So yeah, just for thanks. Welcome to the Node add-on API team meeting for April 5th, 2024. We just started a little bit late because we were discussing one of the issues on the agenda. I'm going to pull that up right now. I think this is the right one. Hopefully I got that. This is the right. And we were talking about, no, I got the wrong one. Okay, let me just navigate. Is people can see the ABI stable node repo now? Actually, no, that should be the right one. Milestones.
Yeah, we look
Milestone.
in the right screen, like with issue 5
Okay,
to
this one.
9.
So this one right had discuss reverting no GC commits. So we
Mm,
were to go ahead.
I'm seeing the issue still. This issue
Okay.
55222
Yeah, let
nine.
me stop. Share it. Share screen. Sometimes hard to choose the right one. There, okay. This one right here. There should be the right screen.
I see Node add-on API add-ons broken by default.
Yeah. Okay, good. That's the one we were discussing.
Yes. Okay.
Um, so we started a little late because we've been discussing this. I guess to recap, I think our current understanding is like, the change was not intended to affect people who are not using NAPI experimental. And looking at the reproduce, which was like this build from known source Kerberos, it looks to us like it is in fact using an NAPI experimental. And in that case, it was understood that people using experimental would be affected. There's an opt-out flag and which, if you add a new define, it will opt out. And I guess also the other options might be to like move up to a newer version of Node API instead of experimental, and then also actually like updating to make the changes to the API that are required in that case. I think Gabriel, you were working on adding in a comment to the issue to
Yes,
sort of
yes, it's
respond to
it's in
that.
the
So
it's in the Zoom chat. So
okay,
it's essentially the same, but I changed the things that are sufficient to a list of 3 things. And so if we can agree, I will post this comment.
that's good. Let me. Well, I'm just finding the chat myself. I assume everybody else is taking a look.
Could we list this? Which exactly flag needs to be defined? Could we look it up and put it in?
Yeah, and
Okay,
I would put
okay.
that as number one. Like that's kind of the path of least resistance, right? Which is just if
Just add the opt-out.
we
Okay.
put that in there specifically, like if you're in this case, here's your easy fix, right? And then because number one of moving to NAPI version 7, I don't know if we know for sure that that would actually resolve it, right?
Oh, okay, revising. Oh, geez, what was the opt-out flag there? Oh, yeah. Anna herself gives the flag earlier here. Okay, so keep and add the paste flag or to bump. Okay, so keep an API experimental and add the node API experimental node GC env opt-out flag, or to bump an API version to 7 and remove an API experimental, or 2, 3, do the work to support node GC types. Okay, so I flipped the first 2 options around. I made the flag explicit instead of just calling it the opt-out flag, and I kept the third option to the same. So next iteration of the comment is this.
Yeah, I don't know if it's worth adding like a thing that says, is there some other example that that, you know,
Good question. Excellent
it
point.
doesn't,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
you think doesn't use it, or like, you know, is
yeah.
maybe we're overlooking something, right?
Yeah, okay. Um,
I have a
uh,
question. When people send npm install build from source, are they able to pass some additional parameters to the kind of build process? I wonder, like, if this node API experimental node.js environment opt-out can be passed as a parameter, additional parameter.
I don't remember if the build process listens to like CXX flags. If it does, then that might be worth exploring, but I'm not 100% sure. Although removing flags is difficult. But yeah, but adding the opt-out is easy because you would just define the opt-out.
That's what I
Right. I
wonder.
guess the thing though is you can't necessarily just set that in the environment, right?
That's what I would like to find out. Let's see, minus build from source. Okay. All right, so it's building.
Oh,
it's
like if you have the CXX flags environmental variable to
Hmm.
define opt-out.
yeah, to add more flags, but I think that the build system is responsible for honoring that environment variable, and I'm not sure if the makefiles generated by node.js do actually include code for honoring that variable. What I can do is I can get answers to this by building locally. I need to install the header files for something called GSS API, apparently, for this thing to build. So I'm just gonna go down that road. And so, I mean, if we can agree that this is a good comment, other than to check this and maybe offer an alternative solution, then I'm going to do this work, and then I'm gonna
Yep.
post this comment plus an offer for an alternative solution if I find it. If not, then I'm gonna have to. Oh, and I will also ask if there are any other examples that do not use experimental that she's
Yep.
aware of that break this, because that's legit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
So
we'll do.
we can clarify, like, and maybe it's even worth, like, you know, we can clarify there was no intention to break anybody not using,
Yeah.
you know, maybe it's worth putting that as a first, because that was the first question with some of the discussion, like, you know, there is no intention. If you're not using NAPI experimental, there was no intention that people should be broken, right?
Yeah, it was not our
That might be
intention to
good to put as a
break.
first sort of line. It's like, no intention of that, but it looks like this use case is using experimental,
Yeah,
and
okay.
there.
Okay, it was not our intention to break add-ons built without an API experimental.
Yeah.
And then second sentence, at link, an API experimental is defined. Thus, the add-on is exposed to experimental APIs, including node.js types. To get the add-on to build, it is likely sufficient to either do one of these three steps. And then I'm going to put in the result of this investigation I'm about to do.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, great.
Okay, so yeah, thanks for doing that, and we'll see where that goes. Let's see. I'm gonna flip back to the things we had for the agenda then. Okay, anything new that people want to share or discuss? Okay, if not, Node SQL8 performance. I think Gabriel, you might have mentioned something about that.
Yeah, I submitted a PR. I pinged Daniel Lockyer, who's the person who filed this issue, and so somebody on the project, as a result, started a build, because their project is set up such that the GitHub workflows do not automatically run. And so somebody ran the GitHub workflows. They all failed in a very strange way. They failed claiming that they need node 18 to run. And then when I opened up the drop downs further up the build log, it said it's running node 18. So I left a confused comment saying, can you please help
Okay.
me figure out the test failures? And that's where that's at.
Okay.
And the improvement is not using any of our API. So it's nothing exotic. It's basically a matter of creating the keys for the objects once, and then reusing the JS values instead of calling an API define named property, because that would call create string all the time, but the strings are always the same. So let's just create them once and then just pass in the value, which means an API defined property would get used, or set property would get used, which is just using an API value as a key. So basically the thing that the engine would do internally if we had that new API, but done externally, which is to reuse the same value. And that gives a 10% roughly boost to the select test, which is not spectacular. It's not like a 3x improvement or anything, but it's better than nothing. So that's where that's at.
Okay, yeah, I mean 10% significant. So
yeah, exactly, right. So I'm trying to shepherd that PR through, but I really need their support now, because I have no idea why it's failing in such an obscure fashion.
okay, sounds good. Drive towards full coverage. I don't know if there's anything to discuss on that front. I'm just going to see if we have like any open PRs. Maybe I shouldn't have closed some of them to just look at the recent reports. I guess we got the actions.
Yeah, I remember we discussed, I guess, on the 2 meetings ago, you had questions regarding like, why isn't there a report generated for some of those PRs? And
Yeah.
yes, it's because there's a filter on the coverage Linux file. If on the left you see this run details usage workflow file, if you click workflow file,
Okay, sorry, oops, workflow file, yep.
paths ignore line 6.
Okay,
And as well as 17.
right, okay.
So it's ignoring all of the GitHub actions, which are primarily what
right, yeah, okay.
version
That's
bump
yeah.
are.
Okay. So basically we should get reports. We'll take a look on that one. I guess in terms of next step, it's really just a matter of now looking at where there's missing coverage, right? And I guess trying to fill those gaps.
Yeah, I suppose so. And then also figuring out, because a lot of the uncovered lines are due to the underlying node API calls not returning generic failure or
Right,
something.
okay.
Always returning okay, an API okay. So we have to figure out the best way to try to, take those unhappy paths in order to get the full coverage on conditionals and branches.
Or decide that it's not like, is there some way we could exclude those?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a way to say like ignore this line in coverage reports, but
And it's like
something.
ignore a whole bunch of lines, right? It's like any
Yeah.
line that, because it's kind of like like we have the air handling, but like those are like completely unexpected paths, I guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, otherwise we can try to create some tests that like create a node add-on API number passing a value that's a string, and then trying to do like, get numeric value or whatever it is, and then that'll error because the value is a string or whatnot. So I guess it's also sort of figuring out sort of those unhappy paths that we can take to
Yeah, like the
see.
one you just described makes some sense, right? Like, so there's some where it's like you could actually do them and it would make sense to fill those. If some are like, it's, I don't know, it's like almost impossible to think of how you would generate them, then there's somewhere it becomes like, well, okay, we're diminishing returns, right?
Right. Mhm.
But yeah, like the one you described sounds like, well, we can write that test and why not, right?
Yeah, and then we can see if it changes the coverage at all.
Yeah.
Let's see.
We
Okay.
can use another approach. What if we produce some kind of mocks? So, like imagine we have some just fake implementations which always fail, no matter which parameters they receive. So instead of a real implementation, we'll just apply some kind of mock implementation for such cases.
Yeah, that's an interesting.
Yeah, I don't know how to mock this underlying C methods that would be called.
In
Because
at least for Windows, we often like in Microsoft we use this detours. Like if you heard like about such kind of library.
okay, I can see
They
it.
kind of inject some special kind of piece of code which allows you to kind of do some work before you call a original method. And
Mm. Okay, I mean there has to be something, and I'll look around to see if there's anything that can support us with that.
Yeah, that would definitely be an interesting thing to do. Okay, so then moving towards stale issues. I don't think I've seen any new stale issues, so I don't really think we have anything to talk about there. No. In terms of debug testing, haven't done anything. So I think that takes us to just now looking at issues in the repos themselves. Okay, so this one I think the one that we talked about was a little bit related to that, but those two PRs that did land, I think maybe Gabriel is what you were waiting for on this one, right?
Yeah, and we need that fix for the thread safe function too.
Okay, there's one
that
extra
needs
one.
to,
Okay.
yeah, that needs to make its way backwards through the
Okay.
release processes.
So that one's still waiting. This one I think I saw Kevin you were helping out with.
Yeah. So this one, this one is a little tricky. This is the one where creating the number value initially does not store the value correctly. And I'm still working with this person.
Okay. So you haven't managed to recreate and sort of going back.
I've not. I created like a sample project with GitHub Actions to see it running and everything. And I'm not getting any failures. The next thing he said that he explicitly is using Clang as the compiler on Windows. So that's the next step that I need to do
Okay.
is Actions to test that.
Okay. So good news, bad news. It's
Mhm.
not easy to recreate, which means theory, like it's more of an edge case, but bad news is it's hard to recreate,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Let's see. This one you've already sort of answered, waiting on response. And I think otherwise, all these are otherwise not new. Any of these that we should chat about?
Nope, not here.
Okay, I will flip over to node repo. Let's say issues, label. Take issue part off. This looks new and it's related to. I guess the doc, something just moved. That. Okay, this one we already chatted about. Got the next actions. And then I think I don't see anything near the top that looks new. Vladimir, I know you were moving ahead the one related to libnode, or I think that's the title.
yeah, I didn't do much progress there,
Okay.
unfortunately. That's
Is that I was just checking that's I wanted to make sure you weren't waiting on reviews or something like that because
no, like I did all required changes, and pretty much I'm at the point that I need to just kind of figure out how to run tests,
okay.
and after that it should be ready.
Okay, sounds good. Any others that we should chat about? Okay, if not, I guess thanks for everybody's time, and we will chat again in GitHub and next time.
Thank
Talk to
you.
you later.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.